Invisible Soldiers podcast.
Welcome to the Invisible Soldiers podcast. I'm Corey.
I'm Rebecca.
And we're the host of an intimate peek inside the world of advertising from a Black perspective. Today, we welcome a dynamic talent and rising star. She's a writer, creative director at GSD&M in Austin, Texas. Dominique Monet, welcome to the pod. Hey!
Woo! Thanks for having me.
What's up, lady?
Nothing. Just enjoying this Sunday afternoon here in Austin.
Hot summer in Texas.
Very hot. But the AC is blasting and I'm still by my fireplace. So, keeping it cozy for the podcast.
All right, cool. You are our first writer guest. So this is great. We have not had any writers yet, and I love writers, being one myself. So what I want to ask you is, what is your earliest writing inspirations? Where did it come from? This book? Is it the radio? Is it where did your first writing inspirations come from?
I started writing music more than anything, music and poetry. So, I had my little girl group back when Destiny's Child was hot. Thought I was Beyonce, but turned out I'm a better writer than singer. That's okay.
Okay, what were these lyrics like? Tell me about. Did you record any?
No, we didn't go into the booth, but
okay.
You know how it was back in the day. Men, y'all doing too much, and you can't trust them, and I don't know. That's what they were singing about in the 90s, 2000s, and I got a different view on men now. I'm happily married, and Beyonce give you a lot of advice that she don't take of her own. But anyway, I love B though. Let's be clear. So yeah, I wrote music and I wrote poetry. It's kind of embarrassing, but that movie, 10 Things I Hate About You, and she does a poem in class. But the thing is, I never hate you, not even a little bit, not even at all, or something. That's how it finished. And I cried. Why am I crying? Why is this poem so basic? But I'm so inspired. And then I really wanted to take writing more seriously after that ridiculous movie.
Okay.
I love it. So you go from writing lyrics to poetry. How did you find advertising? What was your educational path? How did you get there? And how did you get here?
Yeah, so shower thoughts. You know how inspiration comes to you in the shower. So probably around the age of 11 or 12, it went from writing R&B to I would just make up jingles and things in the shower or randomly. And so going back to me being a Destiny's Child fan, I was rewriting their lyrics. We like them burgers up top from the BK. Get you a Whopper for $2.99. Why am I saying that?
Yes.
How to flip them patties 3 ways. What? I need a burger. Yeah. So again, I don't have the voice, but I had the ideas, the lyrics. I could, 8th grade trip at the McDonald's, chicken head was out. Boop, boop, chicken. And I'm here, chicken nuggets. Boy, you like my nuggets? Don't even fake the deal. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, but that was fun. That's when I was like, oh, I want to be a jingle writer. I didn't know that it was copywriting and I didn't know all that, but I wanted to be a jingle writer.
So how did you get into advertising? Was it school? Was it a recruiter? Was it a random post? What got you into the industry?
I went to Howard University, shout out to HU, and I majored in advertising. The thing I learned about universities in general, they're really good about specializing in the business section of it, but their specialty isn't necessarily creative, or at least not writing. So I went through the program. I still wanted to do advertising. I didn't feel like I belonged, or I wasn't the rising star at Howard and, next up. That wasn't me. But I felt talented. I felt out of place. And so I went to a career fair senior year and I was talking to some people and they're like, you don't even look like you want to be here. Do you? And I'm like, not really. I'm just trying to pass my class. And they told me to come. And they're talking to me and they're like, I think you need to go to that booth. And it was the Miami Ad School booth. This was last semester before I graduated. I discovered what portfolio school was. And I went over to that booth. I'm like, wow, they have schools all over the world. And I studied abroad. I love to travel. So I'm like, I can do what I love, which is advertising. I can learn all across the world, all across the country. And hey, it's more to it than jingles. It's all this cool creative stuff. So that's when I felt like I found my people. when I went to that booth and when I was courageous enough to say, actually, I don't want to be here. And they didn't judge me for that. They just helped me figure out where I wanted to be.
Mhm. I always bring up the fact that when I first got in advertising, I was the only black guy in my department, right?
Mhm.
But as a black woman, I'm assuming you probably entered advertising and you were probably one of the few women in your creative department. Can you tell me what that was like trying to enter that space and be heard as a black woman?
Being a Black woman, it's interesting because I'm actually the first woman born in my family in about 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been surrounded by men my whole life. Now, there are women married into the family, but, like, I didn't have, like, all these female cousins, or I don't have any sisters. So, gender isn't something that really stood out to me immediately. I started my career at Burrell. Well, I interned at FCB in Chicago, and I enjoyed the internship, but I knew I wanted more culture, more of a cultural experience I can relate to. So when I freelanced at Burrell, I really liked that. I started working there. And I don't think I noticed that I was the woman in the department. I noticed I was with my people and I wanted to be with my people. But maybe a few months in, actually, Corey, your dad, actually, me and him went on a shoot. It was one of my first shoots in the business. And we went out to dinner with the director. It was my first director dinner. I put on like a nice skirt and a blouse. And he goes, Dominique, can I ask you something? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do you dress? And I'm paraphrasing, but like, do you dress differently at work on purpose? And that's when I realized, like, I had been wearing more boyish clothes. I had a more boyish cut, like looser clothes, blazers. Like, I wasn't letting my femininity show through fashion. Being the youngest
Mhm.
in the department, being the only woman, I didn't want people looking at me in that manner. But it was unconscious. It's not like it was a conscious decision to do it. And it wasn't until he saw me at the director dinner wearing what I would normally wear outside of work, like, Dominique, are you dressing different at work? And it wasn't a bad thing. It was an observation. And to me, it was an invitation to be who I am, whatever that might look like, and be comfortable in that. So yeah, it was actually your dad, Corey, that was my first time I realized, hey, I am a woman here and I want to be taken seriously for my ideas and not, looked at by my body or anything of that manner.
I've noticed that a lot. People who don't wear makeup and then one like, yeah, you see them at some kind of big event and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, like,
Mm.
who are
Yeah.
you? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And the crazy thing though is like, you really can't hide your body though. Like, people are going to see what they're going to see no matter what you wear.
Does it affect the experience though of you being heard and your ideas being taken seriously?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's all mental and internal. I think you decide that you're confident in what you're saying and people are going to, you're going to respect it. And then that confidence transcends what you're wearing regardless. I think that was an internal decision I had to make. Even when I got married, I talked to my mentor about, should I wear my wedding ring in interviews? Because you know how ageism is in the industry. And I was a senior writer. Like, if I'm married, does that mean I'm not young anymore and I don't have the great ideas? And he's like, wow, I've never had to think about that as a man. And he's like, I think you should wear your ring. Like, but it was the confidence that I got in somebody like him telling me that. Like, once I bring that confidence into the room, ring or no ring, you have to respect it. Like, people can smell when you're not confident. It's like a dog can smell fear, and people respect you when you are. So that's something I had to learn over time.
It's funny you brought up ageism because I feel like it actually works the other way sometimes where
Mhm.
you know what I mean, Rebecca? Like where like I read a thing where it says like men when they have a little gray in their beard,
Mhm,
they get respected more.
mhm.
Maybe that wedding ring also says seasoned and unafraid to plant roots. So it sends other signals that you maybe may not be aware of.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's like, social media is popular now, but at the time it was like, ooh, YouTube, you went viral. It seemed like the youthful knowledge is what was getting me the job. So I was afraid of being seasoned.
Hmm.
But to your point, Corey, it has its benefits. And that's something that I've learned along the way. So yeah, I think in the Black community, Black men, I feel like, respect Black women more. There's a lot more gender respect to me. We do have our issues, yes, but I feel like there's a lot more respect between genders in the Black community versus
Hmm.
working at a general market shop. where I feel my race and my gender a lot more.
Mm.
Play a huge factor. Yeah, and thinking about that too, your journey is so interesting, similar to both Corey and I. We have been in multicultural spaces, but we've also been in the general market. We had a guest on, and she gave us a new acronym, AWAs, all white agencies. But
Mm.
can you talk to us a little bit about your decision and your thoughts around when you choose to be in a multicultural space versus a general market space, around the idea of being able to bring your whole self, whether it's a seasoned writer, a female writer, a black writer, can you talk to us a little bit about those two experiences?
Yeah. So I chose to start my career at a Black agency because it felt like home to me in a good way. I'm very motivated by intuition and feeling. It's something that's hard to explain to people, but I ask the people around me to trust me because I trust myself and we're just going to roll with it. So my intuition led me to Burrell, and that comfort was important. But me and Corey have talked about this offline. I feel like within the Black community, there's a certain idea of what Black is and what Black creativity is. And so I wanted to leave just doing Black commercials because I wanted to express myself outside of those parameters, if you will. And so while that is a part of me, that's not the only part of me. That's not the only way I express myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Sanders Wingo, which was air quotes multicultural, but I was really just doing Black work. It was a little more the same. Then I went to RGA and got to do global work. And that was really important to me, going to Miami Ad School, where they had schools all over the world, where I've lived, outside of the country. That was really important. It's before Zoom was popular, before COVID. I'm up at 8 at night talking to the team in Asia, making sure this resonates over there. Like, that was really exciting to me to connect on a human level, not a Black level, not a general market level, just what's the human truths that no matter where you're at in the world, this resonates. And we'll tweak it and we'll adapt it a little bit, but you really connect on a human level when ideas have to be that big and that vast. So that's something I yearned for. Now I'm in the general market space. It's a little different. I prefer the global space. But what I find is, as Black people, our experiences are so rich. We're just different as it is. The way we've experienced the world is different as it is. So sometimes it seems intimidating. How are you going to fit in there? But if you're just yourself, the ideas are different anyway.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. What I've learned is we need people everywhere,
Mhm, mhm.
because we need people in rooms and general market spaces to help point out blind spots. We need people in targeted spaces to help elevate that work. We need people everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anywhere in the industry that can't benefit from our presence.
Right.
I like to get a little more granular about the actual concepting way that you go about it. Do you have a process? Is it unique partner to partner? Can you talk to me about, like, once you receive a brief, how you approach starting a project creatively?
Yeah. Immediately when I'm briefed, I'm taking notes in the brief. If it's a good brief, you should have ideas coming to you while you're being briefed. If nothing's coming to you, then that is probably a moment of pause where you may need some more information to get to a better concepting session. And then I'll ask more questions. But a good brief, I'm already writing ideas in the briefing, asking questions. I like to generate ideas by myself first. That's just my philosophy in life. Whether you belong to a family or whether you're married, you're an individual first. So I like to have an opinion of my own first. It's nothing worse to me than a brainstorm session where we're both starting at the same time. It's
Mhm.
it's very slow. It's very
Yeah, no,
yeah,
facts.
yeah. So if I come in with just 5 and you come in with just 5, at least we're starting with 10 and we might get rid of all of those. You have to be open to that and that's okay. So I brainstorm by myself first, then I talk to my partner. Some people work really well alone. That's not my preferred method. I was an athlete growing up. I like team sports. I like socializing. It's less important to me what we make than like the journey to get there.
Hmm.
I need that partner to bounce things off of, to have fun while doing it. I like to brainstorm on a regular old pen and paper, like not on my computer.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll take notes on my phone. I'll sit outside in my yard. I like to be outside. I love nature. Part of why I'm in Austin is beautiful. A lot of people think Texas and desert, but it's gorgeous here. Sometimes I tell my partner, I'm only going to brainstorm with you if we do it at brunch. And we'll brunch for an hour and a half and only do ideas for 20 minutes. And that's okay because we're good and tipsy and, it's flowing and it was fun. Great. So for me, it's about having my own opinion, sharing that with someone else, hearing what they have to say, and then having fun in the process. And I write last. I'm really trying to get out as much as I can on the page. And then, I don't know, 2 days before it's due, we'll write it. But what's the point in writing something that's not good? Let's think about as much as we can first.
I love that. I love that. Can you talk to us a little bit about the dynamics of partnership? One of the things as I recruit young creatives, they have been maybe in a silo by themselves, kind of working through spec work. But when you get your first job and you get assigned a partner, maybe you know them, maybe you don't. Can you talk a little bit about maybe best practices or maybe some of the ahas that came out of learning about how to work with a person?
I think what you just said is really important, how to work with a person. A lot of people think about how are they going to work with me? How are you going to work with them? Just being really open-minded to who they are and being really observant. Everybody works differently and there's no right way and there's no wrong way. It's just observing their way and figuring out how it works with your way. I probably had 5 or 6 partners in my career and 90% of them have worked out. So I got to get record going here and they've all been different. Sometimes you can get 2 people together. They'll say, it's 2 alpha wolves together. How y'all gonna work? And we work out just great.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually nice. Like, I don't always want to shine in the room or I don't always want to be bad cop. It's nice to have somebody who has just as much personality as me so we both can get a break. And then sometimes I'm working with an introvert and they have no interest in being an extrovert. And so I'm not going to say, hey, you need to talk more. You need to be somebody you're not. It's just like, let me honor this relationship, in this moment. I'll do what I need to do in this partnership. So it's about finding your partner's strengths. I'm not a fan of searching for the weaknesses and try to make people better. It's like, we're all grown. Like, who cares? I don't really care what you're weak at. I care what you're good at. And I want you to be able to shine at that. And I want to shine at what I'm good at. And if we can both do that, then I don't think the weaknesses are such a big deal.
Yeah, no, I feel that. How do you come back time after time? As creatives, we are, as Erica Badu said, we are sensitive about our shit. And as you know, 90% of our shit gets killed. So I think that's the part that people don't get, right? They see the breakthrough, they see the thing that sells and gets produced. They don't see the 100 ideas that got killed leading up to that, right? So how do you come back from all of the failure? What's the passion in you that keeps you going and sustains you project after project, year after year, even when ideas are dying more than they're getting sold?
I'm just not emotionally attached to it that deeply. I expect for them to die. Anything I'm that passionate about to where how could this die? It hasn't. Or I've got the fight in me or the stats to back it up as to why this should be. And that form of it might not be, but some version of it may be. When we talked about the creative process earlier, I'm actually a very strategic creative. Some people aren't. So part of what I do is I really study the brand, the market, and I really try to find the white space. A perfect scenario, your strategist has found the white space for you. That doesn't happen most of the time. So when you're coming up with work that's strategically sound, even if the idea dies or the script dies, the unique space that you created, people have to respect that. Like, you can't tell me anyone else is doing this in the business because they're not, which is why I brought it. So I'm more concerned with what's the unique space we can play in. And you can tell that story 1,000 ways, which I'm up to and I'm open to. But it's not personal for me. I'm not writing the story of my life. It's not my autobiography.
Right.
I just don't take it that personally.
That is healthy as hell.
Right. Very, very healthy. And thinking about just kind of how you work cross collaboratively with all of the departments in an agency through your career, is there anyone or just people in general that you felt reached over, helped, poured into you, nurtured you? Can you talk a little bit about some of those people that have helped along the way?
Oh my gosh. People have helped me every step of the way. Matter of fact, I've gotten so much help, I had to start declining help. I'm like, no, like, I really appreciate it. But remember when we talked about earlier having a mind of your own? Like, you can get so many opinions and so much advice that you forget how you feel about something. So I'm grateful for everyone who's poured into me every step of the way. Thinking about a few people, My cheerleading coach is one from high school. Actually, she introduced me to her best friend after I graduated, who was a senior copywriter at Leo Burnett, Black woman. I'd never met anybody like that. So to see someone like me who had done it before was crazy. And that was when I was in college that I met her. I was real into cheerleading, like bring it on. Like we took our high school to the state championship. Well, not state championship, to state for the first time in high school history. I was varsity captain, like 14. I spent age of 6 to 16 doing this. And I was pissed. Like, why did I spend so much time? Like, it's not going to give me a scholarship. I'm not going to do this for a living. But in retrospect, my cheerleading coach introduced me to that Black woman copywriter. And it did shape my life. And it did teach me leadership skills. And it did allow me to be creative and make up cheers, all of that. So that's one person. The person she introduced me to is another person. My first day, I moved to Miami for a portfolio school. My car got stolen. The police accused me of doing it, told me, welcome to Miami. I was crying. They found it the next. Yes, it was terrible. They found it the next day with bullet holes in it. Turns out I didn't steal my own car. Someone stole it. Someone stole it and did a drive-by in it and dropped it off. And they stole everything out of my car and I was hoping they did not steal this, except my Baby Boy DVD.
not the Baby Boy DVD.
Yes, I was like, I really hope they don't steal it. Like Jody, my Jody. And they left that in my Howard graduation picture with my family, which I appreciated. And they stole all the shoes out of my car, which is important. I had just had my spine reconstructed, which changed my shoe size. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true.
Wait, you had your spine reconstructed? Right. Were you in an accident?
I had a really bad case of scoliosis. So my senior year of college, it was so bad I couldn't breathe. My clothes would rip. So I couldn't keep any clothes. My shoes would tear. I'd just be in the mall. My shoes would rip and I'd just be crying. I'm barefoot. So at the point where I couldn't keep clothes and I couldn't breathe, somehow my rib cage was impacting my spine and my form. And so I had to get it reconstructed while trying to take 22 credit hours and graduate on time because I sure didn't have the money to do school any longer.
Wow.
Dominique, you are like a superhero.
Is that what I am? It's just so traumatic when I think about it. Every time I'm stressed, I have nightmares about senior year of college. And I think it's because that was so awful. Like I had to learn how to walk again. I couldn't feed myself. My parents had to do all that for me. My oldest brother came to DC and took care of me. I say all that to say, I had just got these shoes, right? Because I had a new shoe size. I was so slanted and tilted because of my spine. I needed a bigger shoe before because my foot was slanted. It wasn't straight. So now I needed smaller shoes. And imagine starting all over with all of your clothes and all of your shoes from scratch. You don't have any money. And they stole that all out of my car. So it was a sad day.
Wow.
Your question was about people who helped me. My cheerleading coach had introduced me to the copywriter from Leo Burnett. Told her what happened when my car got stolen. I drove to Orlando to see my aunt. I'm crying. I hadn't even started school. School hadn't even started. I'm about to quit. She said, hey, talk to this guy. Just talk to him. I talked to him on my drive to Orlando with the bullet holes in my car. He gave me a pep talk. Stay in school. Don't leave. Fast forward a year later, I'm telling some guy how he could be a YouTube star on the train. A man hands me his business card. I call him. He says to me, hey, I heard your voice on this train. You sound familiar. Did you get your car stolen in Miami? I'm like, yeah, that's me.
What? Are you serious?
I'm so serious. And it was Rob Clifton. And he was the executive creative director at Burrell. And he's like, you went through so much. I see you stayed in school. I heard you talk to this man about how he should be a YouTube star. You clearly are passionate about this. You want to come work at Burrell? And I freelanced and they hired me. And that's how I got my first job.
Wow.
That's a great story.
Yes. When I say people looked out for me, they did. Again, I was passionate. I was talented. But you need all those things to work together. You can be talented and not have the right connections.
Absolutely.
I didn't even have money to finish school. Burrell hired me and I had 2 quarters left. I had stopped school at that point because I couldn't finish paying for it. And they paid for me to finish school. They paid for me to finish school and they hired me because they believed so much. So yeah, they looked out for me. The list is too long. See, when I start naming people, people get mad. Like, you didn't listen to me. I'm like, but it's so many of you. Like Corey, I've worked with Corey, who we're, on the podcast with right now. And like everybody's looked out for me. Like people have facilitated safe spaces for me to be myself, to make mistakes. Corey will call me out when I made mistakes. I'm like, God dang. But like there is this honesty, there is this transparency, and it all mattered and it all still matters. PJ Pereira, who is the owner of Pereira and Odell, he's been a mentor of mine for 5 years or 6, or I don't know, I'm losing count. We've been talking on the phone for like every month since I met him in Austin. And he asked me to be his mentee. I'm like, what? He asked me? He's like, I never met nobody like you in this business. Like he believed in me, but he's like, hey, you got to call me every month though to keep this going. I'm like, you got it. Stay less. And I did. So I'm not short on people who believe in me and who've helped me. I stand on the shoulder of very tall giants, and I don't take that for granted. And I just try to be that person for other people and remember what was given to me and just keep pouring it to whoever I can.
But there's a reason people want to mentor you, right? Mentor you. And I think a lot of that has to do with what you bring to the party, dynamic personality, uniquely talented, and also you're somebody who you want it, right? I was telling Rebecca, as a creative director, when you give creative direction, some people only hear exactly what you said and they try to bring it back word for word. And then there are people who really try to make it their own and try to take ownership of the direction you gave them. And they go the direction they wanted to go with it, which is what you want them to do, right? And like that was always like your motivation. And that's what I was like, okay. I was like, she's going to be a creative director one day. She has the checklist of prerequisite skills, and now it's about pushing her. You know what I'm saying? So give yourself them flowers too, because you bring a lot to the party.
Thank you. Thank you.
We hit on this a little bit, but okay, getting older in the game, you've been here a while now. I don't know if you've hit the marks that you came in thinking you wanted to hit or not, but are you hopeful moving forward? Do you still have a great passion for this? Are you getting a little skeptical? Some people start to feel a little squeezed. The older they get, they start looking in other directions. Maybe I need to get some stuff off on the side. Like, give us a temperature check on like where you are at this point in your career and how you're feeling about just the overall industry.
So many thoughts in that question. So have I checked off on what I've wanted to do? Remember, I wanted to be a jingle writer. So I've written several jingles. Everything I've done has superseded that. But the more I got to know about the business, the more I'm like, yeah, I want to be a creative director. And the longer I did it, the more impossible it seemed. So when I became a creative director, I remember going to my pantry to get tea that morning and just falling down on the floor in my pantry and crying, like the real ugly cry.
Wow.
Like I couldn't breathe.
It meant something to you.
It meant everything to me. I knew I had it in me. I knew I had what it took. It meant a lot for me to get the recognition and respect and paycheck that I knew I deserved after I had been through so much. People would just say to me, at work, congrats, Dom. And like a part of me would be upset. What do you mean congrats? Like congrats could never, that word feels so small for what just happened. But I can't be mad at them. It's not them that I'm mad at. It's just like everyone's saying congrats. Like this is normal. I just want to scream, this isn't normal. Like, I have no idea what it took to get here. But it was something really nice about it too, about the congrats, because they said it in a way that, yeah, of course I got the promotion. Everybody knew it would happen, which was kind of cool too. It's this thing where you don't want to be treated differently, even though you are different. And that's what it feels like. It feels like a regular congrats, like everybody else gets. So I wrestled with those emotions. So, I've worked global. I've done Black work. I've done general market work. I've gotten awards, global awards. I've been featured here and there. So even though a lot of people still don't know who I am, but I've had my moments. So I've superseded anything that I could have imagined. And so the conversation with myself at this point is, well, did you dream big enough? And if you didn't, it's not too late. What do those new dreams look like for you? And is this a part of it or is it not? Those are conversations I'm having with myself. We design things for a living. And it's at a point where I'm considering how to redesign my life. And maybe I still want those same things and maybe I don't. And it's okay. I've always had a path. And if I want something, I get it, right? I'm very goal oriented. It's the first time in my life where I'm not completely sure what it is I want, but I'm becoming more comfortable with that feeling and trying to give myself mental and emotional space to be in it for a little bit and see where it takes me. So I don't think I'll be doing advertising forever, but I still love creativity. I love working with people. That hasn't changed. But do I think I'm living up to everything I can be? No, it's so much more I can do. What that looks like, we'll figure that out.
I love that. I love that. I worked at LinkedIn for a little while during the pandemic. I took a small turn into technology and I quickly came back to advertising. It was that's a whole nother podcast. But one of the things that I learned, one of the things I learned there was being open to the next. So we would refer to it as your next play, right? So thinking about, all the stuff that you've done and, you're open about what's to come. What are some of the projects that you're working on right now that you could share with us that are giving you that same fire?
Same fire. That's a strong word because, man, my fire for advertising was hot. Blazing. I can tell you what lights me up. Actually, this week, we're going to do a panel at OFC. It's a Black and Hispanic owned art gallery here in town that just opened up. It's a big deal. It's downtown, view of the river on Cesar Chavez. Like, for people of color to own a space like that in this city is a huge deal. And so for me to be speaking with them to other creatives, and it's all about turning your passion into a paycheck, whatever they may be. And it's not just advertising, people speaking, it's other creatives speaking. That feels so good. Like, I haven't felt that excited in probably years to be around people of color who are just good at what they do, who are just passionate about what they do. And all we want to do is give as many other people of color the cheat code that we can.
Nice. We've reached the end, Dom. So I have one last question. Speaking of cheat code,
Okay.
what is your cheat code that you would give any of the next generation of creatives that are listening to this out there and thinking about getting in the game? What do you got for them?
I talk to a lot of young people. I think people are looking for the cheat code, for the shortcut. And actually, I just think someone said this, somebody smart somewhere, but there's working hard and working smart. This is actually a time where you work hard. It's not about the shortcut, actually. It's just about finding what you love and doing it, not dreaming about doing it. Who cares if you're getting paid for it? Do the thing that you love doing and talk to as many people about it as you can. That's how he found me on the train. I was talking to people about it who didn't even ask for it. But do it. Tell as many people about it as you can. And be willing to put in that work now. Don't be afraid of hard work and don't be afraid of following your dreams, and it will pay off.
Dom, I like the champagne. Thank you so much for joining. We appreciated this. This was great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. This is the Invisible Soldiers podcast. Please continue to support us and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Peace.
Peace.